Now I'm going to put the chains on because this is a neck, another neck. It could be like 100, and they walk in a single file. And this is how they put the voice. They put it on the neck this way. And because I think this thing should be like a 15 to 20 kg. You understand? So after some time, because of it will stay long on their neck.
Yeah.
After if they remove the chain, it will deform that they will not be able to stand upright again.
Yeah.
Because it's so heavy on their neck. Now, this is the slave drinking bowl. Now, they normally place this at the outside, okay, or in the compound where the slave live. Now, they open the ground, they'll bury it to this level. This is the level here. They now fetch water into it. Now, 20 slaves have to surround this. They will kneel down. They put their mouth inside the water like an animal this way. Yeah. You understand? They take. Then another 20 will come around again. They go the same way. Then another 20. Now, as we are taking the water will be reducing. Now, if the water gets so low, while they were struggling to drink the water, if you look at the edge, it's so sharp. It will cut them. Imagine blood into the water. Mucus. The next slave to consume have no choice. Still have to take the water with blood down. If you refuse taking the water till next day, because water is just once in a day.
According to Disney, Pocahontas fell in love with an English colonist named John Smith, but her father disapproved of him, and her father was the chief, so he put John on the chopping block and ordered for him to be executed. But at the last moment, Pocahontas rushed in to stop the execution and save her colonial lover. So how true is this? Well, this is the story that John Smith told the world, but the timing would be pretty weird, since Pocahontas would have been only 11 years old at the time, while John Smith would be 28. And many historians now believe John Smith just misinterpreted a ritual ceremony. The actual story is pretty traumatic, and it's more like this. These guys work for a company, the Virginia Company. The Virginia Company wants to make money, so they send these guys over to build Jamestown. Now the thing with Jamestown is that it's often portrayed as this innocent little farming settlement, but this just wasn't true. Farming, for food at least, just wasn't going to deliver the return on investment that the company wanted. So the company sent very few actual farmers over to Jamestown. Many of the colonists they sent over were soldiers, and their job was to find gold and seize it. After all, the Spanish did this in South America, and they got rich from all the gold they found. So the English were going to just do the same, but in North America. But one big question. If they weren't going to farm their own food, then how were they going to feed themselves? Well, the plan was to just trade with the Native Americans for their food because that was more efficient than farming it themselves. So they'd bring over goods from England that the Native Americans were fascinated by, like old copper decorations, glass beads, and bells. These were exotic goods to the Native Americans, but were everyday items to the English. So the English would get a really great deal by trading away these cheap goods for food. This meant that when the colonists landed in the spring, they spent all summer searching for gold instead of planting crops. But when winter came, they hit some thorns. They didn't find gold, they didn't get rich, the few crops they did plant were failing, and crucially, the Native American people weren't that keen on trading away all their food. See, the colonists came in the middle of a drought, so the Native Americans needed most of their food for themselves and couldn't afford to waste it on luxuries like copper decorations. This meant that over half the colonists starved for their first winter. And this is where Pocahontas comes into play. Her people, the Powhatans, realized that the colonists were starving, so they sent Pocahontas to just give them some of their food, partly out of humanity and partly because Pocahontas' father saw the English as potential allies. Well, here's the thing. The colonists wanted more food than what they were given. And even though they were basically living off of the Powhatan people's welfare, they started demanding more. The Powhatan people refused, as this was all the food they could spare. So, the English settlers stormed into Powhatan villages, armed with guns and steel weapons, seized the Powhatan people's food by force, and burned their villages down. The Powhatan chief was furious, so he went to war with the colonists. Now remember Pocahontas? Well, there was no love story. During this war, the English kidnapped her, the girl who had been generously delivering them food so they wouldn't starve. The English then hold her for ransom. Pocahontas' father, the chief, immediately pays the ransom. He sends food, he releases English prisoners, and he returns some English weapons that his people seized as part of the war. But the English settlers break their end of the deal and just don't return Pocahontas. They instead demand a second ransom to squeeze even more out of the chief. The chief realizes that the English have no intention of ever releasing his daughter or honoring any agreements. So the chief refuses to pay a second ransom. Because of this, the settlers tell Pocahontas who's still young, that the only reason she isn't going back home is that her father just loves hoarding English weapons more than he loves her. In captivity, Pocahontas gets this makes her pregnant, so the English decide to marry her off to the guy who got her pregnant, John Wolfe. He would write about how he married an unbelieving creature, namely Pocahontas, for the glory of God, and that, just to clarify with this whole pregnancy thing, he wasn't marrying her just because of his unbridled desire of carnal affection. Through this marriage, the English prevent the Powhatan people from attacking any further, and the English decide that the next best thing they can do with her is to turn her into a proper English woman and parade her around England. They convert her to Christianity, ship her to England, and show her off as a civilized savage. This way, English investors would think that things in Jamestown have been going great. I mean, look at her, things must be so peaceful. There's no need for expensive wars, Jamestown can be a profitable colony, so, you know, please guys, please invest in Jamestown and the Virginia Company. And well, the story ends with Pocahontas never leaving England. She begged to go home, these settlers were reluctant, but once they were done using her as living propaganda for a few years, these settlers finally said, alright sure. But that wouldn't actually happen. During a dinner with her husband, John Rolfe, she would vomit and pass away shortly after. The cause of her passing away was unclear, especially because she was reportedly in perfect health right beforehand. So many indigenous people believe she was poisoned. Her family asked for her body to be returned so that she could be buried with her people. They believed that her spirit needed specific guidance for her to safely reach the afterlife, so she wouldn't be able to reach the afterlife without their proper burial. Well, the English didn't believe in any of this, and they refused to ship her back. So today, she remains buried at St. George's Church in England.
What voodoo means to me is it just kind of connects all the dots. So, you know, in this lifetime, you know, we experience different paths to spirituality, and it's the one practice that encompasses all the paths in essence, so where a person can feel comfortable to be themselves.
Honor and respect, honor and respect, honor and respect. Divine all blessed greetings and salutations. It is another edition of Revolutionary Voodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes, brought to you by NOIVD, New Orleans International Voodoo Day. Become a part of something extraordinary. New Orleans International Voodoo Day is not just an event, it is a movement that celebrates culture, fosters education, and connects people from around the globe. By sponsoring this event, you're supporting a tax-deductible cause that preserves heritage, uplifts art and education, and fosters healing within the community and beyond. Your sponsorship goes beyond promoting your business. It demonstrates your commitment to cultural preservation and education while supporting a unique event that brings international recognition to New Orleans. Events like symposiums, art exhibitions, sacred processions, and global speakers offer unparalleled opportunities to honor history and inspire a brighter future. Supporting an event like this means empowering a community, enriching cultural understanding, and making a meaningful impact on the world. It connects your brand to a celebration that values unity, diversity, and progress, while helping preserve traditions for generations to come. Join us in creating a legacy. Explore our sponsorship tiers and help us make New Orleans International Voodoo Day an unforgettable celebration. Together, we can uplift the community and inspire the world. And again, we invite you to our third annual New Orleans International Voodoo Day here in this beautiful, enchanted, historic city of New Orleans, Louisiana. And we invite the Pan-African diaspora, the ATR community, whether it be Lukumi, Santeria, Isheshe, Palo, Rootwork, Conjure. We certainly invite your participation, volunteership, and support. We also are grateful for those who continue to show up with us live in the chat. Greetings and salutations to you and yours. my beloved godchild, the goddess, and my beloved godchild, Alexis Williams. Greetings and salutations. Greetings to you and yours, Ray Alexander. Thank you so much for coming through. And my beloved godchild, Neophyte Bokur. We certainly do appreciate you and your family and your continued support and participation in this live podcast. We left off in our discussion, I believe, talking about African and indigenous resistance in 1530 to 1540, and particularly as influenced by the Maroons and the free Black population of Hispaniola, which became Haiti. Sebastian Limba, a skilled fighter originally from the Congo, Central Africa, arrived in Hispaniola in the 1520s and soon after joined Enriquillo as other African people seeking freedom in the Bajaruco Mountains. In spite of their years of collaboration, in 1534, Enriquillo finalized a peace deal that guaranteed freedom only for a few members of his immediate family, passing over all other Maroon rebels and splintering the 15-year-old multiracial, mostly African community. Moreover, the treaty required pardoned rebels to abandon their Maroon outposts and relocate to Savannah Buey and also capture new runaways. These circumstances prompted Limba and other African-descended rebels, including local Indians, to break ranks from Enriquillo and continue their Maroon activity. By 1540, Limba and other Maroon leaders, such as Diego Guzman, Diego de Ocampo, Juan Vaquero, constituted rebel communities of 2,000 or 3,000 Maroons among the 25,000 or 30,000 African-descended residents on the island. In a court document published 1540, the Archbishop of Santo Domingo, Alvaro de Castro expressed the state of consternation experienced by Spaniards since Black Maroons not only pillaged Spanish settlements, but also generated economic power by practicing in illicit smuggling with foreigners and free Black people. According to Castro, free Black females, referred to as ganadoras, also achieved economic independence by traveling all over the island, stealing, transporting, and secreting their merchandise. These Negroes are so richly dressed with gold that move freely throughout the island. They have more freedom than we have as Spaniards. And while the ganadoras moves freely throughout the island, Spanish or Spaniard residents feared Maroon attacks. For this reason, traveled in groups of no less than 15, since Maroon enclaves existed in San Juan de la Maguana, Sierra de Bojaruco, Azura, Puerto Plata, La Vega, Hugüey, Rio de San Juan, and Negua Samana. In 1545, colonial authorities proposed a peace deal with the Maroons, but they rejected the treaty. Consequently, Governor Serrato declared war on the Maroon constituents in 1547 and succeeded subduing a number of Maroon factions. That same year, a Spanish expedition infiltrated the 15-year-old Maroon enclave in Hugüey, occupied by Sebastian Limba and his followers. Although Limba died at the hands of an African soldier and Spanish troops killed many of Limba's men. Several of his followers escaped and joined Maroons in La Vega. By the end of the Maroon War in 1548, over 20 sugarcane refineries closed, and only 10 remained operational as a direct result of the sustained Maroon activity island-wide during the first half of the 16th century. And as I draw to close on the reading for tonight, we've discussed free Black people in Hispaniola were not just survivors, they were architects of freedom. The Maroons or Cimarroons created autonomous zones where African traditions thrived. They built villages, cultivated land, and practiced spiritual systems rooted in West and Central African cosmologies. These communities were often multi-ethnic, blending African, Taino, and even remnants of Iberian traditions. They resisted colonial forces through guerrilla warfare, sabotage, and spiritual protections. One of the most powerful tools they wielded, conjure and root work, systems of healing, protection, and justice that emerged from African diasporic knowledge adapted to the Caribbean landscape. And as I unmute my beloved co-hosts, Queen Mother, Sister Toni Val Martinez, Elder Reggie, Green Soap, leader and founder of Shrine of the White Cloth, also a faithful administrator and team member of NOIVD, and beloved member and team member of NOIVD and the Source, Bianca Johnson Plessy. Please do unmute your mics and come on in. And greetings, Elijah Dupas. Please do unmute your mic and come on in. How do you connect to this story?
Well, good evening, everyone out in the audience and on the panel. One thing true history has taught us that when left to our own devices, we will build and survive. We didn't need help from anyone when it came to building our own economies and our own healing and taking care of our own people from top to bottom when left alone. But they just couldn't leave us alone through jealousy and hatred. Well, jealousy fueled the hatred and tore it up. At the beginning of the show, you did the true history of Pocahontas. You can't tell that story to anybody under 25 because Disney has given them Barbie and handsome white men and told that story and sold it to millions of our children. I have that problem with my grandchildren with a lot of stuff from Tarzan to Pocahontas and telling them, no, that's make-believe. Mm-hmm. Like right now, I don't know if a lot of y'all know about it. I've been posting about it on Facebook. We have some indigenous people in Alaska who have almost been wiped out by the typhoon this past week. Mainstream media is not reporting it. Nobody said anything from Washington about it. But when I say the island completely wiped out, it is gone. Mm-hmm. And right now we have the United Cajun Navy seems to be the only one there that's trying to assist because you can't access it, the area, by any roads. You have to access it by water. And it's now a recovery effort, not search and rescue, just recovery. So if y'all would say a prayer for those Indigenous Americans that got wiped out by a typhoon, please say a prayer for them. And hope that, I don't know what FEMA is. Oh, that's totally out the question. But the indigenous people in America are still being treated pretty much the same way they was back during the Trail of Tears. So
what do you guys think about, like when you was talking about the article when they say like how people built their own villages, like architecture and technology and everything. Would that be almost like an example of what we have? And I know Sister Toni, you have posted this on Facebook about the Oya. I think it was like the Oya Empire Village that's in North Carolina. No, I think it might be North or South Carolina. And I know there was like a yes,
Olatunji Village.
yes, and what would y'all consider, like what you was talking about in that article, of something that they have now, how they all came together and built their own village and stuff, and still held on to some of those traditions and stuff?
who? The village
Yeah, the
that I
people
posted
that's
about?
over the village in South Carolina.
Well, yeah, they pretty much built, it appears to be their own African village to keep up, the traditions. And that's one way of bringing it into the future. I'm not sure if they get much press and if a lot of people really know they're there. I mean, we could certainly use a lot more of them in the United States to help spread, keep up the traditions. I'm not really sure exactly what they teach there. If they just showing you how a village would operate. I don't know if they teach the healing and all of that of it.
Well, Sister Toni and everyone, great show tonight. I've been to Oyatunji several times. It's in South Carolina, Beaufort, South Carolina, and basically it's an E5 compound. You have this, especially the 7 African Orishas are housed there. You can go there for initiations. You can go there for training, teachings. In fact, tomorrow I'm going down to Galveston for the annual, it's called a Caravan of the Ancestors, and they usually have a contingent from Oyatunji Village out in Galveston. And so yeah, they're just trying to build on what's called the EFI, the Yoruba system, the EFI system.
Oh, that's wonderful. Then they truly got some places where they are trying to keep up the culture and pass it on into the future. In the future, if you can give me advertisements for like the stuff that's going on in Galveston and stuff, I'll post it to see if we could get more people interested and let more people know what is out there.
Thank you, Sister Toni. Yes, yes.
How are you tonight, Brother Joshua? Are you in the audience? Are you on the panel?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just getting in, out of my job. I was sitting in. I was listening. Good evening, everybody.
Right,
Hope you
good
guys
evening,
having a
Josh.
good evening. I heard you brought up the tsunami. The people that are dealing with that up north. That's pretty. Yeah, that's a pretty bad situation up there. I haven't even had a chance to do too much research on it myself. I did see videos of it. It looks very devastating. Yeah, and I'm not sure what I know you guys were talking and touching on just various things. But you guys can go ahead. I'm gonna get settled in and I'll chime back in.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, I want to touch up on the tsunami up in Alaska. Maybe 5 months ago, President Trump and the powers that be done away with NOSHA. And this is an organization that goes out and look at what weather patterns, oceanographic patterns, and to give warnings of such things as tsunami, earthquakes, hurricanes, and of that light, which may be hitting the mainland or the islands in America. But with that organization stripped down to the bare bone, we just don't have no national defense right now. So in a way, we're gonna probably get more destruction on this in this country.
Yeah, especially in areas that are prone to hurricanes. I mean, I haven't even heard or found anything that the Alaskan government is saying about this. If you will go to my Facebook page, Toni Val Martinez on Facebook, I have how it looked before the tsunami and how it looks now. Pictures in Kipnuk, Alaska. It's like they just totally throw them away.
Yes. Sister Toni, and thanks for the work you do on Facebook. And of course, I've seen it and I watched it, but it's in alignment with what happened 2 months ago in St. Louis, Missouri, North Carolina, and even in Texas. We've been having natural disaster hitting and bringing in a lot of devastation, and it's just swept under the rug, and people are suffering. And
Yes.
yes, it's fitting a pattern right now.
And under this regime is going to continue. It's going to continue, and we have to look out for each other. I mean, we have to look out for each other as communities. So I advise everybody to find your people and get with your communities and make plans. You know, I've been telling people on Facebook to plan now like a hurricane is coming, because we don't know what's going to kick off in the country with the military. So right now it's a time for just planning. I mean, we got to keep our head on a swivel because we don't know where it's coming from. The regime coming one way, Mother Nature coming the other way, and we just kind of like caught in the middle. So I'm just advising everybody, you know, stack up on your waters, your canned goods, your other survival tools, your battery powered or hand crank radios, because we living in a time of serious uncertainty in this country right now. I don't think we've been this uncertain since the Civil War.
Yeah, the theme with not to cut over you, but the theme as Divine Prince was reading, if you think of the Maroons and all of that, they had to defend themselves. So they had to find ways to eat, they had to find ways to medicate themselves, and they had to find ways to bring some form of spirituality to, you know, conjoin and help them continue to live as a community. Even though the powers that be was tracking them down, hunting them, and things like that, but they still, to live 15 years in the wilderness as a Maroon colony, they was doing something right, survival skills. And as you speak, Sister Toni, right now, we done got complacent because survival skills are just not something we are looking at on a daily.
Yeah, because we depended on somebody else for our survival.
Our basic
Instead of doing like
survival.
our ancestors.
Yeah, we've lost connection to the land. Toni and I talk about this a lot. We've actually, you know, planned what will we do in an emergency? What animals will we try and capture and cook in an emergency? People have lost connection, you know, to the land. And no offense to anybody in particular, you know, but we have green lawns, you know, full of lush green grass that we cannot eat. Okay, you can't eat. And so we got a little taste of it during the COVID shutdown. You know, what we gonna do when the Walmart trucks ain't rolling? You know, when your local grocery big box stores are not available, what can you catch? What can you capture? What can you harvest? What can you plant? What can you grow?
And that's good that you say that. Like, I definitely totally agree with that because I came from a family where my grandfather was a hunter, a deer hunter and stuff. So we grew up in traveling in RVs with my grandpa while he went hunting. And so now with my kids, is even though they so into games and technology, internet and stuff, it's like I still have like I'm a collector. So I have a bow and arrow. Like I have a bow and arrow, a katana sword, or a axe and stuff. And what I do is I try to take the kids outside and show them how to shoot bow and arrows. Like using things like showing them how to, hey, do you know how to make a fire from using things in the nature? Or sometimes I'll take them in the woods or something, just like have them have the eye for what you think that you can make or do if anything happens. So yes, I still do go outside and practice shooting bow and arrow, or a little archery, or I'll do like a little shotgun, and I'll get the kids little BB guns. Even though they say that you want to keep your kids away from that, but you still want to teach them different survival skills, like you say, just in case if anything happened, how would you be able to hunt or get certain things. And I even try to show and teach the kids how to read a compass. Because nowadays, wonder if time stop. Wonder if you don't have a phone, internet, you have to be able to learn how to go backwards into the old traditional ways when they didn't have all that. So I do try to at least teach my kids some of those things.
And that's my biggest thing. That's my biggest thing. A lot of people that's listening to this broadcast, they only know a life of cell phones and Wi-Fi. They couldn't even tell a clock what time it was unless the clock was digital.
Mm-hmm.
We have to get back to teaching our children to do things without the grid, because definitely that's going to be the first thing that's attacked if someone was to attack us.
Mm-hmm.
Our communication grids. We all know in the art of war and guerrilla war fighting, we learned this from the natives, indigenous people, when they were stringing the telegraph lines across the West. They cut them down. They cut them. They tore them down fast as they could put them up. I mean, they got a lot of books out now. You could even go to the library if you can't afford it and copy some pages that you figure you'll most need out of these books to find ways to purify water. I mean, instead of just buying some new shoes or that new fit for Halloween, buy some water purification pills.
Mm-hmm.
Buy something that you could need in the future. Just in case. Be prepared. You put money in the bank just in case. And that's one more thing. Keep some cash on hand. Hide it under the mattress, in the jar, like our ancestors used to do. And make sure you don't touch it. Because one thing we learned during Katrina, when the lights went out, everybody with an ATM card and a bank account, they didn't have no money. They didn't have no money. And if you only had a bank that operated in the South, you was messed up for some weeks, because Katrina knocked it out all the way to Memphis and beyond.
Mm-hmm. If you had a 504 phone number, you was out for weeks because the towers were down in the city, so you still couldn't use your phone.
Yes. And this is something everybody can do. Don't cost you no money. Just in case, be prepared. Take all your most important phone numbers. Your family you don't have in Louisiana, your mother's phone number, anybody's phone number outside of Louisiana in your family. Write them down on a piece of paper, fold them up, and put them in the bottom part of your wallet, just in case. That way, the further you can get away, the better chance you have of contacting somebody, friend or family, to let them know your situation and try to connect you with your loved ones. And that's going to be crucial. Just like after the enslaved were freed, the first thing the majority of them did was try to reconnect with their family. Return to the old plantations where they were sold from, or where they last knew their mother or brother or sister was. It's in our nature to go and collect what is ours, our family. You know, so it's things that we can do that don't cost any money, but will help us.
You're right, Toni. It's crazy that, I mean, how relevant that is to what's going on and what's happening as we see the disasters that happen across the world. Natural disasters, and then also war and protests and shutdowns. It's pretty, and you got to be prepared for whatever may come. Like she said, like Toni said, definitely have to be.
And I mean, the strangest things are just happening. Look at the wildfires that knocked out blocks and blocks of people. They never thought in their wildest dreams anything like that was going to happen.
Yep.
And when it was time to get out, they didn't have bug out bags, which, in case y'all don't know, that's a bag where y'all put copies of all your important birth certificates for you and your children, insurance papers. I would put the originals in there and put a backpack safely somewhere with birth certificates, IDs, passports, everything you need to just grab and run, one bag. And that's how a lot of people lost all their information in Katrina. Yeah, because they didn't have bug out bags.
Yeah.
I mean, me and Divine Prince talks about these things before Katrina hit. We was planning on what we need to put together and take with us if we have to run, literally have to run. Toothpaste, towels, fresh underwear, all of that go in a bug out bag. You can't put too much in a backpack, but you can fold it up real good and put some change of underwear, some wipes, some sanitary hand sanitizer, face masks, because you don't know what you're running into. And a lot of that stuff is soft and you can fit it in there. Transistor radio and lots of batteries. So at least if you on a run, you can listen to the radio and find out what's going on.
I would like to second that, Sister Toni. You're speaking on a lot of things that are, I think that most people don't think about until you're in the thick of it. And I feel like as far as like Katrina, for me, Katrina was very impactful for me, my family. Like Bianca, my family, you know, we're very much Knife Wart, but my family, they're from the Bayou. So it's not uncommon for my grandpa to pull over and catch a snapping turtle and then cook it on the way home. They're that kind of country. So I think it's going to be very important going into the future for us to be as self-sufficient as possible. I think that's just a takeaway from like Katrina and from COVID and things of that nature. Here in Florida, we're in a little bit of a situation where basically there isn't any homeowners insurance basically here, or if there is the policies do not cover most of the state or most of the things just because we get hit so often. And so here, at least in my neighborhood, you'll see a lot more people who are like doing a lot more outdoor gardens. You see a lot more people who have like chickens and goat and like geese You see people who are like farming indoors or having internal gardens. You're starting to see a lot of people come up with innovative ways to kind of get around what's happening with inflation in the grocery stores right now. So I'm pretty optimistic that the right people will take away from these incidents and become more self-sufficient. I kind of like pride myself on having like a lot of homeopathic books or survival medicine, stuff like that, you know, so I can be as self-sufficient as possible. So I think that's going to be one of the major takeaways. And I know it's possible because our ancestors have been through, you know, hell and back. And if they were able to make some roots work underneath those conditions, then I think we can underneath current urban conditions.
Yes, correct. And another thing I want to let people know, everybody wants to raise chickens, which is a good thing if you got the space to raise them. But just to let y'all know, another good animal to raise also is rabbits. And they not that costly either. And most of the time, I know when I had rabbits, I could go to the grocery store and get the vegetables and carrots and cabbage and stuff that they was throwing away. They would let me have it, and I could go and feed my rabbits with that for free.
Mm-hmm.
And they are good meat if you have to eat, and they reproduce fast. So if y'all thinking on homesteading and setting up, rabbits is a good thing to have with your chickens. They do coexist together well.
Can I also add, just on a brief note, like anyone who has like knows younger people, who has kids, anything, it was so important. My family put me in Boy Scouts. They put me in like summer camps, day camps. They made sure that even though that we were in the city, that we would still have, you know, skills. So I just think it's very important, adult or child, to like have at least the basic skills for like basic like life support, basic survival skills. I think that was very key in my development.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're very right. The Boy Scouts, I think people kind of got away from them. I'm not sure, since my kids are not in school anymore, but I know when I was in school, it was very prevalent. Every school had a chapter of Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. And
Yeah.
also, one good thing, even if y'all don't smoke, keep a couple of lighters
Mm-hmm.
in your bug out bag. That's going to be very important.
I'd like to pose a question before we get off of here tonight. I understand doomsday and futuristic things may happen, but what are we doing in the presence as a collective? All the stuff that's going on right now, what are we doing before the disaster? Let's say a major calamity don't come, but if we get pulled and the 14th Amendment get overturned, we lose voting rights, white supremacy start killing and picking us off one by one. What do we do in the present moment?
Well, I just want to offer quickly that we certainly can't wait until the disaster to create and build community. Certainly that, was a byproduct of, the catastrophe for us that was, Katrina, rebuilding and recreating community. But we certainly have the opportunity now, particularly in the realm of spiritual traditional religious systems, hoodoo, root work, conjure, voodoo communities, Ifa Ilays, spiritual spaces, to not only begin to learn how to feed ourselves again, but to begin to share and trade and create community, so that when these events do take place, you have some support.
Right, you raised a good point, Divine Prince, but I'm not being a doomsayer, but it's not really happening. There's some small things that are going on and doing, but as a whole and as a community, as a collective, the support is just not there.
Elder Reggie, do you see another great migration happening? With everything happening with the economy, and say that the Supreme Court does overturn the 14th Amendment, with everything happening in Louisiana, and we lose those 14, 15 seats. Do you see that prompting another great migration where the writing will be on the wall, right? So any other who's not, in this instance, a conservative, heterosexual, Caucasian, Christian male, the people who have the means most likely will try to like make a run for it, right? They'll try to go towards blue states, right, or purple states. And then, the cost of living in those areas will then increase, right? Supply and demand. But like, so I guess do you see like that being the most likely scenario? I feel like a year from now, we never would have thought we were in this, right? A year from now, there was a movie that came out called Civil War.
That's right.
And now, past is prologue, because I feel like that movie is echoing harder and harder as we move further and further into the present. Does that make sense?
Yes,
the numbers are
you're
suggesting.
thinking
Hold
exactly.
on. But the numbers are suggesting that the migration pattern is reversing. That people are leaving the north and returning to the south. One, for some of the reasons you just mentioned: economy, cost of living, availability of land to grow and produce your own food. But also, I know for me, Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower in the mid 80s certainly, realigned my understanding of what was happening. But I chose to move and return south again for those reasons. Where would I be able to survive? Where would I be able to survive the winter? Where would I be able to grow, hunt, harvest, food? And where would I find the largest population of our people, our community? And we inhabit the South primarily.
And I wouldn't leave Louisiana, Mississippi area either. It would be no way I would leave out the South. And in the event of an emergency, because one thing of the weather factor, and the availability of feeding yourself off the land if you knew how to. And that even goes for not having pew-pews like you would need to really hunt up north. So I agree. More people are coming south, and I think that's why they want to make those changes to the amendment, because they see more people coming to the south, and they see where they could be losing soon. So they have to make everything in their favor. But in order, and to answer Elder Reggie, in a perfect world, we could be a community and build an atomic place where we could go and stay sustained underground in storage containers as groups with our family. But that's not happening. We don't even stay close in proximity of each other. We don't know, thanks to Katrina and the people, the influx, we don't even know the people on our own block. So the only thing we can do is prepare for our own immediate family and anyone else that that's close to you. Have them prepare, have a special place to meet up instead of trying to run all over. Where I got to go here to find mom, and I got to know, we all know where to get to.
Yeah.
In the event of an emergency. I mean,
Yeah. Well, Sister Toni, in the lieu of the time we have, I'm kind of more or less looking at rogue ICE agents, people violating your personal space while you're living without a natural disaster, where police harassing you, where cities are almost drug infested, dumping on themselves. I'm looking at within, an ungluing or uncoming within, even without a natural disaster. Because to me, Project 2025 is trying to bring in these type forces, not just in one area where there's water line and water shows. They're trying to move in this country as a whole. And that is, as Elijah spoke of, and I seen the movie Civil War. sort of in that type of paradigm where rogue Republicans, rogue militias just start making a move and catching people in inner city, outskirts, suburbs, or whatever, gunning you down, harassing you, arresting you. Things of those type nature is what I'm kind of looking at also.
Well, in those cases, we go maroon in the city. We go maroon in the city. You hide. You go stealth. You move at night.
Good point.
You get your pew-pews. And what you need for your pew-pews.
Can I say that on top of that, because I do agree with that, on top of that, I think we need to look at some of the people in our families, in our communities, and regardless of how you feel, if you're college educated, not college educated, if you feel like they're uppity or not, to call those cousins, those sisters, those aunties, those uncles who are lawyers, who are whatever field that they have, whatever they're in, we need to create communities and networks. So you need to know who you can call if you end up, God forbid, in some type of legal situation with ICE or with the law. We need to establish like networks, and it has to go across communities, spiritual communities, the physical world, dentists, meds, law, everything. That's what we need to do.
And to anybody in the listening area that haven't seen the movie Civil War, please go and watch it so you can have a good idea of where it appears we're headed. And we actually way over time because the conversation is so good. But I'm going to have to turn it over to Elder Reggie to close it out.
Yes. Thank you, Sister Toni, and everyone in the listening audience. Our next moon ritual prayer and application ceremony will be on the new moon. This Tuesday coming, the 21st of October, 710 Cluid Street. It's called the Cluid's Garden. It's a ritual, spiritual warfare gathering. And it's a time for community. It's a spiritual community, but it's community nonetheless. And then come out and join us on the Day of the Dead Fête Gede celebration. It's going to be Saturday, November the 1st, from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. It's held at the New Orleans Healing Center. That address is 2372 St. Claude Avenue, corner of St. Roch and St. Claude. Be there or be triangle. With that, I say, lest we forget. The spiritual medicine of voodoo brings healing and relief from the shackles of slavery that binds the master and the slave to the same chain of social division. And that social division, we still have to work hard to try to establish. With that, I say, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Good night, everyone, and we love you all. And we'll be back tomorrow night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Odabo.
We knew that my grandfather on my mom and my dad's side, they were both Black Seminoles, so we didn't know anything else. That's what we're working with, my cousins and I, on, teaching the history and preserving, the traditions.
Thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Allah will be thy name.
One of our cousins, Bertha Benson, had did a YouTube video for Sista, and it was talking about how the Seminole language was a lost language. And I didn't want that language to be lost, because that's part of my history, that's part of my family. So that's when I started to research more and learn about my history.
We don't hear as much about the Southern Underground Railroad as we hear about the Underground Railroad that went north. However, as early as the 1600s, there was a Southern Underground Railroad. And in this Southern Underground Railroad, Africans escaping enslavement from South Carolina came to the land of refuge, which was Florida. As early as 1693, the King of Spain issued an edict that said that all Africans who escaped slavery and came to Florida could be free. And so Florida became the land of refuge. And 1763, with the Treaty of Paris, when Spain ceded Florida to the British, then the Spanish took those Africans who were living there and they went to Matanzas, Cuba. Now, because Florida had this reputation as being a land of refuge, that did not stop Africans from coming to Florida.
Please, allow me to show you something.
They say I'm crazy and that might be true. I got this white in my DNA, yet I'm coming for you. It's time we turn the tables, flip these motherfuckers on you. I wanna see you hanging from trees. It's time you pay for your dirt and your shit. You created the monster, you created the beast. Now all this savagery you just gon' reap. I'm coming home, daddy, to the plantation, and I'm taking the lives of everybody, including the children, on some Nat Turner. Oh, do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. I met my girl Harriet at the gate. If you wanna know how she doing, yeah, she's straight. But she had one question: when we gon' get up? All that talking tough, yeah, we don't walk it tough. She got it locked and loaded, got that piece up on her side. She looked me in my eyes and said, "Mitch, you ready to ride?" Moving forward, you gotta use both eyes. Watch your front and watch your back. Keep your hands up on your gas. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. He sit at the table, but he don't order no bacon. He greet me in those words, assalamu alaikum. Got them glasses on his face and them waves in his head. He go by the name of Detroit Red. He looks me in my eye and says, you only get one try. Know that your biggest opposition will come from the inside. I know you wanna love them all, but don't even try, because they'll smile up in your face while plotting your demise. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down.